Well, good evening, everybody. Please, we'll have an opening prayer now because it sets the agenda for the evening and gives the spirit world our intentions. Might also just mention before we do that you invite those spirit members that you would like to connect with us here this evening to join us. So you can do that at the same time. So if you all please close your eyes and bow your heads and make contact with God's light and love within the room. Heavenly Father, Great Spirit, from this sanctuary of peace, harmony and love, we send out our thoughts to those people in this world who are much less fortunate than ourselves. We think of those who have been affected recently by the terrible earthquake, and those, of course, with the war in Ukraine, and also the war in the Yemen. And dear Lord, we also ask that your attention is drawn to all those people who are in desperate need, those people whose relationships have fallen apart, those people who are destitute and who are hungry and who don't have the luxuries that we come to expect in our Western civilization. And dear Father, we also ask that we look to those people who are nearing the end of their physical lives and who are coming to their transition. And we ask, Father, that you give them guidance and help to make that transition smooth and easy. And we also ask that you care for those people who are left behind and those who suffer greatly from losing their loved ones. And we also ask that you guide the carers and the doctors who have looked after these people through their arduous times. And I ask also, Father, that you look to the nature kingdom, and we ask that you adapt the world to be as it once was, in the fullness of its beauty, as it once was before humanity pillaged it to the extent that they have. And dear Lord, this evening I hope to be a concise and accurate messenger for the spirit realms, to bring those messages of love to those here most in need. And I hope to work with the highest, the brightest and the best. Thank you, dear Father. Amen.
Thank you, that's awesome. Right, as usual, I've got the healing book, so if you all know the drill by now, I don't know why I'm going through it again, but I'm going to anyway. So we haven't got anyone new here today that's never been before, have we? No virgins, yay! We're all good. Yeah, just imagine everyone in a happier place, in a happier position, just surrounded by love, surrounded by your good thoughts, and we'll send out all the good stuff. Great Spirit, as the days grow warmer and the sun begins to shine, so do our moods grow brighter. So we spare a thought for those who need a little more healing and good energy to bring them out of their own darkness. We send energy and healing to our animal kingdom and all those listed below. So we've got Dougie, Darren, AC, Jan, Vicky, Sam, Sue, Robert, Jill, Ron, Peter Bird, Janet, Christine, Brian, Lee, Ronnie and Garth. Was that Garth? Kath.
It's Callum.
Oh. That's a very strange way of spelling that.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I was like, oh. Not sure about that one. So yeah, if you could just think of them in a better place for a minute, that'd be great. Lovely, thank you. Now, I had a request tonight. I had a request for a story that featured angels, and I couldn't pick which one. So I've got two very, very tiny short stories, so I'm not going to keep you here all night, I promise. But yeah, someone asked for a story to do with like angels and healing and using them in your healing and things like that, so and keep them in your prayers. This first one's by a woman called Emma, and she said, "Sitting in the doctor's office, my hand shook as she gave me the bad news. I'm afraid it's breast cancer, Emma. I was 35 years old when I found a lump in my breast and received the diagnosis that it was malignant. It was September 2015 and I was immediately referred for chemotherapy. I knew it would be tough, and it was. The treatment made me weak and nauseous and my hair fell out. I only did a couple of sessions when I picked up an infection. On the 15th of September I started to feel really shivery and ill and my temperature soared to 38.4 degrees. My family rushed me to hospital so that I could be properly looked after, but my infection just got worse. My blood count started dropping, which was really dangerous, as white blood cells are vital in fighting off infections, and even more so in cancer sufferers. I've always believed in angels, and as I lay in my hospital bed, I still found the strength to pray to Archangel Raphael and the Angel of Healing. I prayed to him and Archangel Michael every night. Please protect me, Raphael, I asked. As I lay there, I became aware of a green and yellow light. Slowly expanded until it was completely surrounding me. I felt safe and warm, as if I was being held in a heavenly embrace. Gradually it faded away, but I was left with a wonderful calm feeling. I knew that I'd been visited by Raphael. And sure enough, when the doctors checked my blood the next morning, they were shocked to find that they'd risen to a safe level once more in just a few short hours. It's a miracle, I heard one of the nurses say. A few days later, on the 19th of September, I was discharged from hospital. The rest of my treatment for cancer was gruelling, as well as chemotherapy. I needed a lumpectomy and then radiotherapy, but the angels were there every step of the way to help me through it. Although I didn't experience anything as dramatic as the visitation from Raphael, I'd still see flashes of blue and pink and green lights out the corner of my eye, and I always knew they were with me. Angels are beings who are here to help us, but they won't do anything unless we invite them to, as I did when I was in the hospital. People experience them differently, but I've always seen them as light beings as opposed to the feathered humans from the Bible mythology. We all have guardian angels watching over us. I'm now in remission, although I do still have side effects from my cancer, as well as some underlying health conditions. I still pray daily to Raphael and Michael, and I'm convinced they communicate with me through songs and through the numbers 22 and 6, my birthday numbers, which I see everywhere. It's so comforting to know that they're still looking after me, and I'm grateful every day for their love. There's another woman called Jane, and she said, "Since I was small, I've been able to feel angels and other light beings around me. As a shy child, I found it hugely comforting to know that I was being protected and guided. I'm now a psychic medium and an angelic Reiki healer, and I've been working with angels since 2005. What I do is I help people to connect with them, particularly with archangels, each of which has a special duty and skills. I've seen angels a few times in my home, and I regularly find white feathers, a sign that they're with me. Last year, my health began to decline. I developed agoraphobia and found myself too scared to leave my home. With no alternative, I became a recluse. I was just existing, not living. We all have free will, and the angels can't intervene in our lives without being asked for their help. So I called out for help from the Angel of Healing. Raphael, Angel of Healing, please help me, I begged. I can't carry on like this. As I sat there in my living room, connecting with Raphael, an emerald green orb appeared. Gradually expanded to cover the walls and surrounded me where I sat. It entered my head and flowed down to my toes. As it surrounded me, I felt a warmth, comfort and love, and knew that everything would be all right. You are never alone, help is always available, Raphael told me. As he spoke, I felt my worry, fear and anxiety released from my body. For the first time in months, I felt renewed and uplifted and safe in my body. I knew from that moment that I would be okay and get better, and I was right. From that day, my confidence returned, and I was finally able to get well again. I believe that angels are higher beings of pure love and joy and messengers of hope and faith. When we're born, each one of us is assigned a guardian angel whose job it is to look after us until we die. They have beautiful wings and they come with no judgment. There are angels everywhere, we just have to ask and listen to them and let them help us. Angels do exist, I'm living proof of that. So yeah, I just wanted to read those out because like I said, someone asked me about angels and they asked me about healing and they asked me in what way you can work with angels, and they were two completely different stories of people working in different ways and getting healing in different ways, and I just wanted to bring that out. So thank you for listening to me rabbit as usual. I will pass you over to Colin and see if you've got anything else to say.
Thank you. Excellent. Wonderful start to the service. Absolutely superb. Do you know, for those of you who are sensitive to the change of energy that surrounds you and surrounds all of us, did you notice a difference this evening as we went into that healing session there and we start sending our love and good wishes off to those who are suffering at this time? It's transformational when this happens. And I hadn't any intention this evening to speak on any philosophy at all. I was going to go straight into mediumship, but I've decided to change a little my original programme, and I'm going to speak about healing, the effect that it has. A lot of people don't realise that wonderful things happen just through applying one's consciousness. And I always think the most valid things to speak about are those things that are personal. So if it's something that's happened to you and it's something that made you sit up and take notice, they're the things that are more important than reading loads of books of the from the pioneers, as good as they are and as informative as they are, things that are really apply to you are things that you've witnessed yourself. And I'll tell you of a couple of things that have happened that really made me sit up and take notice. Several years ago I had an abdominal operation. I was meant to go into good old Adam Brooks, but it was several years ago when MRSA was very prevalent. So Adam Brooks, the ward I was meant to go to, was closed and for disinfecting. And they sent me down to that lovely private hospital down the road, the Nuffield. And so I had my own little private room there with an ensuite, and I thought, this ain't bad. Anyway, I'd had the op, and the next day I was quite lucid, laying on the bed there, and a nurse came in and she said, well, Mr. Boswell, she said, 4 or 5 other poor souls have had the same operation as you, and but they won't be going home anytime soon, unfortunately, and so don't get your hopes up that you will be doing the same thing. I thought it's terrible bedside manner. And so there I was lying there, and peacefully. It's a nice, large-sized room for one bed, really, and very high ceilings, beautiful daylight, sunshine coming into the room, and I didn't feel too bad. And the nurse left the room, so I just sent out this prayer. I just sent a prayer, innocent prayer up to, oh please Lord, don't let me have to stay in and have any difficulties. I'm a bit of a workaholic, and I always like to get back to normal as quickly as possible, to my wife's annoyance. And anyway, I'm not kidding. I'm lying there, and I was suddenly just guided to look to my right, slightly up to the ceiling. And what can only describe as a searchlight of golden light came very slowly through the ceiling, not like the speed of light, instantaneous. It came down slowly. Now, I'm really perplexed what the devil's is. And it came down and completely saturated me. And the wonderful thing was, I've done a lot of exploration into people who've had near-death experiences. And virtually every one of them has described the most profound feeling of pure love. And I experienced the same thing. And I've never felt anything like it before or since. And unfortunately, as that time I reconnect with that sensation, it almost brings me to tears. And the fact is, I don't know how long I was in that situation, but it was pure and absolute bliss. And I never wanted it to end. And I can understand why people, when they transition, a lot of them say, I don't want to go back, this is just so wonderful. Well, my mobile phone lay on the bed on my left side, and it was one of those early mobile phones that kicked, it wasn't one of these swish ones. And it chucked out a text tone. Beep, 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 it went, and it snapped me clean out of this. I wasn't happy. I can honestly say I was probably as angry as I could have ever been. But I picked the phone up reluctantly, and a pure white screen was there. Just a white screen, nothing else. So I scrolled it up, and it said, healing sent. Underneath. Now I couldn't get back to that text. Once I'd looked at it, it was never there again. All the other texts were still there. That one was never to be seen again. And within minutes, the door swung open, and in walked the surgeon that gave me the operation only the day before. And he gave me the once over and said, well, Mr. Boswell, you've well enough to go home. And I told this same story in another church, strangely enough, the one in Royston, a few years ago. And the president sat next to me, and as we got to as I'd finished that address, he said, well, Colin, he said, similar thing happened with somebody that we knew. And once again, it was a little while before, some years before, and that church at the time, it's closed now, unfortunately, sadly, and but it was teamed with or twinned with a church in Liverpool and another spiritualist church somewhere in Australia. And there was a gentleman that was a long-standing servant of the Liverpool church who was in hospital with stage 4 cancer with only expected hours to live. And so these 3 congregations dutifully and simultaneously sent healing. This is what I'm trying to explain, the power of what you do. This healing was directed at this poor gentleman in this Liverpool hospital. Lo and behold, it seems his phone threw a text tone up with a white screen, and when they scrolled up, it said, "You are healed." And the man was able to be discharged from hospital within hours, to the complete and absolute surprise of his doctors. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that absolutely marvellous? Just what we do, just by thought, just by sending out love. Because when you send that love out, and I mean, as a healer, when you're doing healing, you actually create an energetic link between yourself and that other person. Even if you've never met them in your life, even if you've never met them, you don't know them, you create an energetic link. And when you do that, that energy just goes down and it does its job. There you are, oblivious to the fact of the wonderful things that you've achieved, or you've had God achieve through you. Because each of us has God within us. God is without and God is within. And you're able to actually connect with that without even realising. You know, you're only just a switch, but God works in the most marvellous ways. So when I heard, had a name popped in the healing book tonight for my son. My son's not even 50 yet, he's still in his late 40s. And he just told me yesterday that his closest friend has got bowel cancer. And he's desperate. And he's only in his 40s, this young man. And he's feeling bereft, you know, and extremely anxious. And I'm just thinking, it doesn't need to be, because if we all just send that healing out, miraculous things happen that are beyond our wildest imagination. So just keep it up. Remember that what we do here is magnificent, because it's the work of God. So thanks for listening to me on the philosophy side. And now I'll churn on with the mediumship, if you don't mind. Yeah. I work in a different way to any other medium I've ever met. Sorry to say that, but I do. I've got my own unique way of doing things, and I quite enjoy doing it in my own unique fashion. It's not always 100% accurate, because some of the information that comes through is open to my own understanding, and so I like to try at least for 90%. So we'll do our best this evening. There's some wonderful energies in here, you know, just by starting with that intention. And I know lots of you have sent out, I can hear the cogs grinding in your minds, and you've asked your loved ones to join us here. And we actually should have put one of those wonderful things on turnstile on the door, so as they all come filing in, they could all drop a quid in the coffee. And wouldn't it have been great, you know? And this church will certainly get a name for itself. And lovely. So, is anybody here that's never seen a demonstration of mediumship? No, that's good. That's lovely. Oh, there's one over there. Is that? Yeah, a new bag. Yeah. Well, if you feel that the individual I bring forward is somebody that you know, and just put your hand up and attract my attention. I have the ability to go straight to an individual, but I like to offer it out to the entire audience, and we see how it goes from there. It's just the way I like to work. I've worked both ways, but my uniqueness is that at the end of a message that anybody gets, you have the opportunity to ask the spirit realms your very own question. Your very own question. That's nice, isn't it? You know. And but I would ask that that question is one that is of a yes or no answer. You know, is my Auntie Jane with my Uncle Jack in the spirit realm, are they happy?
And
Or
family
are they
friendly.
knocking 7 bells out of one another, as they used to when they were here, you know? And so I like to put a bit of comedic stuff in there if I can. Just lightens it up, doesn't it? And because it's not always easy. I was working in Bedford last night, and you know, you bring people through that's perhaps there's a suicide or something like that, sadness there, and difficulty. You know, it's and I sometimes feel if you can lighten it a little bit, it enables people to take the link a little bit more easily. Though the tissues are there if the need arises. So we'll get kicking off then. Do you know, as I was driving here this evening, coming down the motorway, and I very often get the first incumbent that wants to join us park themselves on the passenger seat and make themselves make me very aware of their presence. And it was a gentleman this evening that joined me as I'm driving along, and so I just felt the crackle of the energy, you know, as he came in the motor. So, and he's joined me again now, and so I'll bring him through. I do know that this man could be a crusty old son, so apologies to him and to anybody that might want to connect with him. So I do know that he could, call a spade, this man would have done. He's quite outspoken, and but no more for that, somebody was very loving. Somebody was also very protective of his family, and somebody always knew his place in that family unit. So he was always the provider, and somebody was very much Victorian in his upbringing and throughout his life. So there's a bit of a disciplinarian kind of concept with this man, and so I think I'm probably with somebody. I don't like to say an older person in the audience because I'm up there with you in this kind of geriatric kind of realms, I'm afraid. But there we go. We have to put up with what we are, don't we? And so this gentleman, as he comes close, I do know that he would have had in his life some degree of military intervention in his existence, and I do know that he was pretty well almost a lifelong smoker, almost from the crib to the grave. But so he was very much certainly somebody who liked his he liked a puff, and I do know that would have been endemic, towards his final passing out of this life. I feel he only lived to be mid-70s. I'm quite comfortable with that, around about the mid-70s. Can anybody take this incidentally so far? And
we can take the smoking all the time and dying in the mid-70s, but not the military part.
The military part, but when I say that, it's because of the way he stands there, and he's just got this energy about him, almost as though he was a man that would have controlled other people. Would he have been in a position in his life where he was kind of in a group chargeship position then, where he perhaps had like a foreman in a firm or something like that?
I don't think so.
No, but was he somebody that was very much had command about him then in that case?
Yeah, I suppose.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
You would say so, yeah. So you both know this gentleman,
Yes.
do you?
Yeah.
And because of his age, am I looking at a grandfather with this person?
Yeah.
Am I looking at a granddad? Yeah. I just feel he would have driven a black car. Would you accept that? Towards the end of his life, when he was still no, not a black car.
No, I'm not sure it is him, but.
Anybody else can take this incidentally.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy with the link that we're building here.
Okay.
I do feel there's something coming along there. And would this chap have come from the south of here would he have emanated, if you like, from what we call the old smoke around that sort of
London area.
yeah, London area.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm using old terminology. I'm just at that age, you know. I watched Sweeney too many years, but as he comes through, I do know there's love. So I do know there was an influence with him to you two ladies. Would I be right? You know, something you kind of the cogs that turned in his head. I hope you're not as stubborn as him, though. Oh, you are. Very much similar to your own. Would you accept that?
Yes.
And you obviously can be somewhat outspoken as well. Would I be right there? You don't hold back. If something has to be said, you would say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. That's right. Yeah. As most young ladies do. But wonderful man. I mean, I would say wonderful man. And the partnership that he had with his lovely lady was also cemented and strong. Would you accept that as well? And would I be right also, strangely enough, even though, as I say, he was outspoken, that she was the one who made the decision?
Yes.
Yeah, because I feel that, you know.
Exactly.
I almost feel as though, it's funny, isn't it? There was never any kind of arguments. It was just a known thing that she was the one that kind of, you know.
Yeah, to
It's
a point.
my
to a
decision.
point.
Yeah. And he was somebody that people gravitated towards for advice. Would you accept that as well? There's a lot of wisdom with this man. There was also a great deal of observation that went on from him, the things that were going around.
Oh, yeah.
Or would you accept that he was very much somebody that almost had his little feelers out everywhere, and he knew what was going on without actually
well, he thought you knew.
hearing all, he thought he do,
Yeah.
But, yeah. And the weirdest thing though, he had the most terrible selective hearing deficit. You know, you accept that.
Yeah.
And he was always being reminded of it, or other people were being made aware that he was a little bit rude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can accept that.
That's it, true.
And did he used to like to drink the black stuff, like Guinness, or some other kind of? Towards the end of his life, did he used to like those old strong ales? Those strong.
No, not really.
No. Well, why am I seeing that? Like a Mackerson or something like that. One of those strong stouts, as they call them.
No, he wasn't beer. No.
I've been shown that for some obscure reason. Wouldn't have been the lady, would it? Would she have drunk it for perhaps the iron or something like that? You know, for perhaps a blood deficiency. Some older people do that. They get a little bit anemic and they knock a bit back for medicinal purposes.
My husband does.
Yeah. Well, it's a good idea. I use that method all the time.
We're going to have one in a minute, St Patrick's Day.
Yes, right, yeah. And what a great idea, isn't it? We've all come here tonight. And none of you dressed in the Irish colours. Do you know, my mother-in-law's in an old folks' home, and I went there, paid her a visit this morning, and there's all this Irish decoration on the table. Not one of them's Irish. And all they're interested in is the fish and chips that comes at 12:30. But this gentleman, as I say, wants to connect to you. Now, I believe this is to you. There's some advice. There's something. There's always a message at the end.
Yeah.
As I look at you, incidentally, you have this wonderful auric field around you, which is true blue. And are you in some capacity, in a healing capacity?
Yeah,
because that's quite apparent.
Yeah.
It actually bleeds over the young lady to the side of you as well, and so you're almost pushing her out of her seat. But in that capacity, you see, this gentleman also, strangely enough, was somebody I feel was quite empathic. Would you accept that?
He was a quite sensitive man.
Yeah. And I feel that things could have. It might seem strange. Could have almost. I would say he was a soft old gentleman, if you sat and watched a film that had something like in it, you know, that was a little, he'd be sitting there, wouldn't admit it, but he'd be bawling his eyes out.
Definitely.
Can you accept that?
Yeah.
And with that, he's come around you because I believe in your life at the moment there's some turbulence. Would you accept that as well?
There is,
And there's relationship turbulence as well. Would you accept that to some degree?
Yeah.
And all he wants to do is to come and pour something calming on those stormy waters to sort of smoothen things out. And he wants you to look ahead in your life to better times. And you know, we've gone through a terrible time over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And lots of us have taken the sort of hint from the government and from others, medical fraternity, to do things that we wouldn't otherwise normally have done. And it's caused a lot of people a lot of anxiety, an awful lot of anxiety. And we have to move on from that now. We have to get back to some normality. And we see by the numbers here that we are. And people are more confident to come out. And in your own situation, to some extent, you've felt held back. You felt you've kind of hit the buffers to some extent. And there's all these things, being young, you've so many things in your mind that you would really love to have involved yourself with and in, and that would have given you inner enrichment and satisfaction, and you felt held back. Can you accept that? And he just wants you to basically make up for that lost time, and to kind of do it with greater energy than you might have otherwise done so. Do you know what I mean? And to actually go right outside of your comfort zone to seize even more. I've found by going outside your comfort zone, you're rewarded, because when you do that, spirits say, do you know what, this person's giving of more than they would otherwise do so. Do you accept that? And so don't use the old grey matter.
No.
You go with the old gut instinct. And I think you're somebody like this gentleman that you would tend to do that anyway. Would that be right? And so do take his love. Do take this lady's love as well as she stands here as well. And who's George, by the way? Just before we let
not
them
sure.
go. No, hold on to that as well. I've also got to give you October the 18th as a date of significance. So if you can't apportion that straight away, just take it with you at the moment. It's a day with a pass in there. I know it's shown to me on a black page. So as I used to breed budgies, I always say somebody fell off the perch. He's not being disrespectful, but I very often used to find a stiff budgie in the bottom of the cage that just fell off the perch, and 10 minutes before it was happily chewing its millet, you know. But anyway, so do take his love.
Thank you.
And have you a question?
Is he happy?
Is he happy? Yeah. Invariably they are, you know, and they take away all those idiosyncrasies that they had here, you know. So if it's a little bit prickly, you know, at times or anything like that, the same. Yeah, and I get all this positivity on the side here, you know. If somebody like, it's almost like I've got this crackling going on there of energy. So it's profoundly, he's happy, very, very happy, and. I don't think he'll be coming back anytime soon. So he's finding it happy on the other side. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you. Oh, that's lovely. I'll just give it just a few moments just to settle down. Otherwise, I sometimes get this continuation of the previous connection. And there we are. Yeah. Oh, I've got two people coming through now. First of all, I have this lady that's stepping forward on my left side, and as my awareness is drawn to this dear soul who wants to connect, I do know that I do know I've got Mum here, and I do know as she comes close, I don't think she's ever connected at all before. I don't think she's ever come through before, and certainly not with her other half. And I think I'm over this side of the room. The old sat nav's kicking in, and that didn't do me much good on the M11 tonight. It's quite a short lady. She's a tidy bit broader in the physique than I am. She's a bit wider, but she's around about 5'6". 5'6". I'm comfortable with that. No taller than 5'6", and she's wears spectacles. I think in her younger years she would have had quite dark hair, and but as she aged, naturally her hair went kind of salt and pepper, and I think she would have passed late 70s. I'm quite happy with that. Not topping 80. I'm quite happy not to. She didn't top 80, and I do believe that she would have had a cancer condition, and I do believe that cancer condition was initially one that was an abdominal cancer, and that abdominal cancer was initially cured, and she felt as though she could move on in life. But as occasionally does happen, I feel it came back, and it came back and metastasised in other places in her body. Can anybody take this information so far? I hope you think I'm with you. Is there anybody else here? I'm on this side of the room, I'm convinced of that. So, may I work with you, please? And would I be right with the build of this lady, around about that kind of height, that general description with her? And would I be right that she was a real fighter, but she was very much an optimist? She always felt, even though the first time, and she did beat cancer effectively, and it was for not an inconsiderable time. Would you accept that as well? And but when it came back, it metastasised in different parts of her anatomy, and but she was still positive. Can you accept that? She remained positive. It didn't kind of knock the wind out of her sails so much that she gave up hope, until that point in her life when she weakened and the weight fell off. Can you accept that as well? But I think the worst thing is for her was having to rely on the care and the help from those around her, which she was particularly against happening. Can you accept that? Her independence cut in there. And she didn't want people to be kind of so fulfilling of her needs. Would you accept that with her? And as she comes close, I tend not to work too much with comedic things. I try and put a bit in if I can. I'm very much working here on a strong, very strong love link. Would you accept that? And she was very much the maternal soul. And she's very much family orientated. Would you accept that with her as well? And rather like the mother hen, you know, sort of gathering all the chicks around. And I see that as being a very dutiful soul with her. And as she connects with you, incidentally, there's a colour green that comes through here. And I very often work with colour. I'm a pranic healer anyway, and colour is very important in the energetic thing that I have in that healing. And that also happens to be that there is between you a permanent green thread of connection. Would you accept that? You think of her a lot, an awful lot, and she's always in your mind. And you talk to her a lot, I'm sure. And as you do, you're always asking as well. She's telling me that. You always ask, you almost think of her as a guardian angel. Would you accept that? And, pardon? Yeah. Sorry. We did need a tissue, I'm sorry. But, and she never ever wants you to feel guilty of that. I was once told when I asked my mum for things. I always said you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't bother them, but they love it. They love to be connected, they love to be thought of, and they love to be brought into your life. And it's never ever too much bother. And she's somebody that's around you all the time. And by the sheer fact that you have this energetic link, almost like I described with the healing earlier, is that you can tap into it. A millisecond she'll be there. Within a millisecond she'll be with you. And you can feel her, I know. There's this dynamism with this lady of so powerful. And wasn't she such a busy, busy soul when she was younger? Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't have seen a fly dirt on the window, would you? She'd have cleaned it off if she'd have knew it was there. Everything was kind of immaculate. But I feel around it, there wasn't a great deal of money. Well, am I right? There wasn't a great deal of money, but there was always enough. And the gentleman that comes in with him was very much this person who would have always put the wallet on, his pay packet on the table. So it was always enough. Would you accept that? It was always enough. No one went hungry. A happy household. Would you accept that as well? But the stuff they show me is to try and reconnect. There's some personal possessions that this lady had that you have in your possession, and she never wants you to part with them. She never wants you to part with them until, effectively, even though you will bequeath them to somebody else that supersedes you, she wants you to hold on to them until that very day that you pass into the next realm. Would you accept that? Even though you might like to see these things on the fingers and to be adorning somebody close to you, she'd prefer that you hold on to them because you're the caretaker of them till that time. And by the sheer fact that you will have kept these, as a medium, you can use psychometry with these items. These items retain the vibration of the owner for many, many years. I mean, many mediums can very accurately hold a ring, hold a watch, hold a personal item of somebody's life and read information off of that and give a perfect message of true accuracy. And she wants you to hold it so that your energy is also embalmed and infused into those items. Can you accept that? So whenever your young ones look at these things, they think of you, just as you think of your mum. Can you accept that? And she just wants you to just value them, care for them, and always remember that they were as precious to her as she knows that they are to you. Who's this person in the family that loved robins? It kind of, every time they see a robin, they think it's the presence of somebody that's gone before. Yeah, because somebody, I'm being told, always looks for robins, and whenever a robin comes in the garden, because I've been made aware of this. Some people have other birds that they like to see, like magpies, but there's in this particular case it's robins. I've been made quite aware of that. And it's December the 14th, a date of significance that you can accept, by the way, because I'm being given that at this very moment. And shortly before Christmas. Hold on to it, because it's a date I've just been given, and I see that quite clearly. So there's something apportioned to that date. Go a day either side, but no more than that. And it's Robert. Can you accept the name of Robert somewhere within the connection of this lady? Bob, would you accept Robert? Sorry? You can.
That wasn't his real name.
No.
But everyone was called.
Yeah, I see. Excellent. Okay, because that came in quite clearly, clairaudibly. And yeah. Now, I'm sorry that upset you, that connection earlier, but it's so warming. It's like sun's beaming on my back. Yeah, that's fantastic. And it is like a gift, isn't it? It is like a gift. And she just wants to know that love is so profound. There's a lot of pride that she has in you. Some people say that pride is a bit of an empty emotion, but it isn't, because she's obviously proud of the way that your life is going at the moment. But once again, there's some things that are going in there, some complexities that are, it's not a shortage of money, but there's something that money needs apportioning to things at this present time. It's nothing to do with the grabbing government taking it all off of you, but there's things that need doing, and they need kind of getting out of the way. Would you accept that?
Yeah.
Pardon? Yeah. And but she would like you to also. There's music. What can we say? There's a performing group or a musician that you particularly like, and I think they're paying a visit to this kind of general location where you live in the coming months, and she would like you very much to sort of take a little group of people there and have a special evening together, and to have because you've not done anything like that for quite some time. Would I be right? And she wants you to get out and live and see some live music and to just lift that vibration. Because she's telling me you've gone from being an optimist to a pessimist. Would I be right? To some extent. Yeah, I think that's probably what it is. Yeah. She just wants you to come back to your kind of bubbly former self. Can we accept that? Well, thanks for working with me. I mean, the love that coming through is just wonderful. Never cut that cord. Never cut that cord. And do you have a question, by the way?
She's not suffering anymore.
No, that's right. Once again, I get all this positivity. True happiness. They're both together. Though not all the time. You know, one thing they tend to do over there, the relationships that we have here are dear to them, but that companionship where we have to live under the same roof, they'll be doing different things. You know what I mean? And still growing, still expanding. Not everybody realises that when we step over into the next realm, we take all of our consciousness, all of our experiences go with us. Everything that we've lived goes with us. Even if somebody that's perhaps had severe dementia at the end of their life, completely disconnected from all of their life's experiences, there's a true awakening as they transition into the next realm. Because the first thing you do, or one of the first things you do, is you actually relive the entirety of your life as you transition. Everything that you've done and everything that you've experienced comes back at you, magnified 1,000,000-fold. And how that happens is that you relive every experience from basically birth to death. But you relive all the emotions that you have yourself. You relive the emotions that you've imparted in all those around you. Everything that you've done, the effect it's had on everybody else, you understand it. And there's not a word spoken, it's just known, it's just from your senses. And actually as you transition, you don't speak a word. Everything then is all communication from one's consciousness. Isn't it marvellous? It's just incredible. And that's our home. That's our home. And this isn't our home. This is us having a short spell of our perpetuality, having a human experience. Nothing more. I mean, I had a great aunt who lived to be 99. She thought she was ancient, you know what I mean? And but really, she was no more than a kid, you know, even at that age, because her spirit is forever young, perpetual. And that's what it's like. So even though we may feel old and decrepit, when we get into our 8th and 9th, whatever decade, We're not really. Our spirit is perpetual and is always youthful. Whenever my wife sees her dad, and he passed, aged about, I think he was 89 when he died a few years ago. He's always around about 33. He's always a brilliantly bright, energetic figure. You know, he appears absolutely wonderfully young. You know, there's my wife and myself in our 70s. And isn't that marvellous, isn't it? Absolutely wonderful. Anyway, we'll move on to the next one, and we'll see where we go. I think we're cutting a line over this side this time again. And shouldn't say cutting a line, should I? What a mistake. There we go. It had an innocent meaning at one time. Yeah. I've got a younger soul coming through, a younger person, a young lady. And as I connect with this lady, it's always so often the big C, it's so often cancer is the thing that I can understand why people are obviously very anxious regarding cancer, because of the treatment is so horrendous. And things are changing in that respect, by the way. I mention med beds just loosely at the moment, but things are changing greatly. But as I connect with this lady, and I don't think she made 40, I'm quite happy in her 30s. And I do know that we had, rather like the essay that was read earlier, this lady would have had a cancer condition in her chest, and she fought against it. She fought against it very hard, and but it was to take her. And I do know that she would have still had quite a young family, so they were decimated by that loss. Can anybody take this? I think I'm over here with this particular instance, with this connection. Can anybody take this? The lady, not of really great age. I don't feel she was old as 40. And if I'm wider over there, just please put your hand up. I just feel that the energy's taking me over here. And as she connects with me, I do feel that her passing did leave some teenage children still in the care of their father. Does that mean anything to anyone here? The lady would have had I feel on her left side would have had some form of tumour that became cataclysmic to her survival.
I can take some of it.
You can.
But not teenagers.
Not teenagers, but certainly children. And these children were still in the care of the father after her passing. I'll work with you if I may at the moment. If anybody else feels that I'm with them, just yell out. But as she connects with me, I do know that she was a lovely, lovely, soft-hearted person. Would you accept that? Would I also accept with her, she had very similar colour hair to yourself, kind of blonde. Would you accept that? Yeah. And as she comes close, in her working life, I feel that she was a very efficient person, somebody who was very dedicated. Would you go with that?
Yes.
Somebody kind of enjoyed the work that she did to some extent, found what she did was fulfilling. She would have preferred not to have done it, having children, but unfortunately, as times are and times were, sometimes the need arises. And but she was dutiful in what she did because she felt it helped with the family, helped with the finances and so forth. Was she involved in teaching or something like that? Would you accept that? I just feel that her expertise in what she did was in some respect conveyed to others.
Possibly.
Yeah, yeah. Like as though she was in some capacity tutoring those younger and less experienced.
She might have been.
She might have been, no. But as she sort of comes really, really close to me, who's the name of Jean that you might be able to connect with? I'm not saying it's this lady, but the name Jean, I heard that, you see, so I'm going to give that. No, some connection with this lady. Is there a relationship connection to you with her? She's a friend, is she? Yeah. And because she's somebody that you must think of occasionally, would I be right?
Yes.
Somebody that comes into your mind and do you miss her? Did you see a photograph of her quite recently? Somehow something reminded you of her existence, not too in the distant past. Something that kind of just brought her back into your mind. See, I'm very often they put.
I have something of hers which I use regularly.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay. But there's something that reminds you of her. That's the thing. That's why I feel personal possessions of individuals who've passed and are left with somebody as such a vital connection. It's strange, and that connection brings them back. It just the merest thought, and there they come back into your life again. And I feel though, even though she worked indoors in her life, I do feel she was very much a person of the outdoor. Would you accept that? Somebody who loved a walk, and loved to have been out in the garden, in the greenery, in amongst trees, forests, places like that. She would have felt a great deal of peace and harmony, tranquility. And I feel with her in her persona, she was somebody that could ground herself and relax. Would you accept that?
Yes.
She wasn't somebody that kind of blew up and was overexcitable. So she a composed soul. Would you accept that? Strangely enough, though there's not a family relationship, I feel that in some capacities you are kind of similar-minded to her in that respect. As she connects with me, by the way, once again, they bring in these messages to allow you to move on in some capacity. And there's always something holding most people back, especially these days. I always feel there's something holding people back and keeping them stationary in places they don't want to be. But I'm feeling around you that you've got this desire to basically make enormous changes in your life. Would you accept that? You've come to a point in your life where basically you want to almost up sticks and do things afresh before you're too old to enjoy it and to there is some aspiration in there. You've not been watching these programs on the television where there are people that are sort of kind of moving halfway across the country to something entirely different. But I still feel there's that wanderlust in your mind that you would like to do something, not necessarily by the sea, but somewhere peaceful. Would you accept that? And because she wanted to do the same things, but she was robbed of that delight, and it never came to her. And I think she wants you to do the very same that she was unfortunately robbed of being able to achieve. And she's telling me that that fulfilment will be transformational, not only in your relationship, but in everything that goes on around you. And she wants you to live the life that she always hoped that she would one day be able to do herself. And have you been a victim of some minor crime of late? I've just had a seed of thought put in my mind. Something like either vandalism or to your vehicle, something like that. Have you been the victim of something quite recently? It's just this thought's just been popped straight into my mind. That's why I'm mentioning it. No. Well, why did I pick that? They put all these little thoughts into my mind, and but it seems as though that's something that's relevant. You see. This lady was an ardent reader of fiction. Would you
Yes.
equate to that? Whereas you're not the same, are you, in that respect? I think you prefer to read something that's more factual. Would you accept that? You do like reading, though. I'm right, aren't I? No.
Not as much as I
No,
should.
but I do feel that a Jeffrey Archer novel wouldn't be something that you would be remotely interested in, right? But do take her advice. I feel you would get distinct benefit from that. June the 4th. What's that date of interest that equates to either yourself or to this lady? I've just given that. So we're not so very far from that. Nice middle of the summer day. It feels to be attached to something wonderfully celebratory. So take that. Do you have a question, by the way? If you don't, you can always ask me at the end. I don't rush off. No. All right. Thanks for working with me anyway. Thank you. Bless you.
Just thought, as I came in today, you walked up behind me and said to me, "Your car's going to get vandalised if you leave it there." That's you, that is.
Yeah.
You joked it just as I walked in.
Really?
That my car would be vandalised if I left it where I parked
something
it.
about vandalism, definitely.
They're watching you.
It felt like auto as well, you see. Like something just minor, like keying or something like that on the paintwork, something like that. Nothing.
I'll go up there, my car's scratched.
No, my van done.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Again.
Maybe that's it then.
Sort of done.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it is then. Oh, well, we did get there then.
See, I helped.
It's funny. They don't normally give me duff leaves. Not often, anyway. A gentleman that's coming in this time, my awareness is drawn to, and as it connects with me, do you know, being a clairsentient medium, you get all their ailments and you get all their aches and pains, and when you get a bit decrepit like me at my age, I've got my own aches and pains, and they add to them, you know what I mean? But as far as I know, my ticker's still all right, good for a few more years. But I just feel with this gentleman, there was a heart condition with this man, and I do feel that resulted in a rather sudden and untimely passing. I don't think he made any great age. I don't even think he reached 70. And but I feel I'm over 60, so I'm in that decade there with this man's age. And I do feel though there was an awareness of a heart condition, and like so many blokes, they don't go to the doctors, they don't mention these things too much to loved ones, and they kind of often think that it's just something like indigestion. But there was this condition that was there was some form of blockage, and I do know that he was to pass as a result of it. Can anybody just take with this information so far?
There's like three over there that can
That's-
take it. Yeah, all three in a line there.
Would that be right with the
Oh, you
age
can as
group?
well. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
There's a lot of blokes walking around with hearts that are ready to go. So anyway, Yeah. The name there's a name of John that's applicable around this person, so there'll be a connection with the name of John, not necessarily him. There'll be a connection with the name of John. Has that narrowed it down a little bit? Are we still with either of you ladies?
Yeah, you did know. His cousin
Yeah.
was John.
And with either of you two there? No. So we'll work with you two if I may. And are you two together actually?
Yes.
So you. But I feel also with this man, it was very sudden, his passing. There was no warning at all. It was almost as though he just dropped to the ground. Would you accept that?
He did.
And there was no paramedic coming along and able to defibrillate or anything like that. It was stone cold dead immediately. Literally like my budget's falling off the couch. It was as sudden as that. But the fact is, it was a shock to all those around him. An immense shock. Can you accept that? And to the loved one that remained behind, who's just sort of wandered in there, it was almost as though they had their heart torn out. Would you accept that? And this person was like half a person after that. Effectively, by losing that individual out of their life, effectively left you never the same. Would you accept that? Never the same, never quite the same. That kind of feeling as you wake up in the morning, it's never the same, is it, without this person there? Never ever the same. And that thought, I know that thought always goes out to this dear soul whenever there's times that are a little bit difficult. Would you accept that?
Yes.
For that connection. And but he's telling me he's got to make an apology for the amount of, I don't use this word very often, crap that he left behind. Can you accept that? Yeah. I mean, he's using the word, you know. God, blimey. So, you know, and I've had many messages like this in the past, you know, and I've just had to get rid of my in-laws stuff, you know, because my mother-in-law's in the home and everyone else has passed away. And there's a whole house full of stuff, you know, where do we put it? You know, we don't live in a palace, you know. And it's a bit like this with this gentleman. Would you accept that? There was so much stuff, spanners and tools and things. God. An endless supply of things, you know. And you're back and forth to the dump. He just wants you to be mercenary, you know what I mean? And just part with it, just let it go.
Yeah.
But not everything. Doesn't want everything to go. And the memories with this person are the precious things, not the things that are. I know we've spoken about personal possessions. They are valuable, and they are truly essential to keep. But the memories of this person's presence are what is really important, isn't it? The memories, the closeness, and that connection you have with this person. Now, I see around you. This time of the year is important to you because it's a time of renewal, a time of regeneration. And right from the earliest part of this year, or any year, you're looking for the opening of the buds, aren't you? You're looking for the little things that are popping up through the soil, and everything that just gives you that feeling of optimism and of new beginnings. Can you accept that?
Yes.
It's sad, isn't it, really? But we all do it. But you do it more than most. And you're always looking for the blossom and that. It starts to slowly open. And he was the same, wasn't he?
Yes.
Just the same,
Yes.
just the same. And was he this person, I feel very much green-fingered, would you accept that?
Yeah, he did that.
And basically, when I talk about green fingers, he could pop a stick that looked half dead into the ground and into a pot, and it would grow. And he was somebody that had this wonderful gift.
Yeah.
And I sadly don't. And but he certainly did. So I'm quite envious already. And but what a cheeky gentleman he could be. Would you accept that as well? And didn't he used to like old slapstick comedy?
sometimes,
Yeah. You know the old clowns in the circus and the door falls off of the car and everything, all that. He'd love anything like that.
Yeah.
Very childlike inside. And I feel with kids as well.
Yes.
He was somebody who would roll around on the floor with
Yes.
kids, even puppies, you know. And so, you know what I mean? Very playful, very playful man. And a joy to have around because of the fun that he conveyed when you was in his presence. But there's not any gin in this, but I feel he would have liked a nip of something with a little bit of cutting edge to it. Would you accept
Not
that?
very often, but
No, but he did like it occasionally.
Yes,
if he went out for a little social meal or anything, a nice drop of Remy or something slipped down his throat, just a treat at the end. Would you accept that with this man? But not to drink to exception. But he's and he did keep all these things about his health bottled up, didn't he?
He did,
He never ever worried anyone around him. He never became a burden in that respect.
No,
And something very loving was slipped in a coffin. He's telling me. Is that right?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah. Oh. You know, they don't miss anything, do they? They don't miss anything. Yeah. But he was wearing blue. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. His favourite colour.
Was it?
Mine too. Yeah. Nothing to do with his football team, was it? No, I didn't think it was.
Yeah.
But blue was a colour that was not only important to him, but it's important to you, isn't it?
It is. It's my favourite colour too. Yes.
I'll keep this message short, but just be aware that love is profound. And that all he wanted to do was to recreate that connection again this evening, to let you know that he's never ever out of your life. He's always there, always around, and that'll always be the case. And you've been ill recently, haven't you? Am I right that you've been ill recently?
Yes.
And it sounds very disrespectful, but he knows that you weren't going to pop your clock, but he was hoping that you might, so that you could join him over on the other side, because he's missing you. Blimey. But so it's not being disrespectful, but you know what I mean. He just wanted that hug. He just wanted that hug, because when you get over there, all the cats and dogs you've ever owned, all the budgies you've ever owned, the tortoises have you ever owned, you know, they'll all come running to see you again. And he just wanted to be first in the queue. Yeah. So just take his love. Do you have a question? No.
He's all right, isn't he?
Great, absolutely fine. Well, if that humour lives on, and he's on the other side, he's doing all right. And being St Patrick's Day, I expect he's having a blimey good, really good time with his Irish mates over there. Yeah. It was lovely. Thanks for accepting that.
Thank you.
And he's really chuffed. I feel you're wobbly now, so I've got somebody who's either a drunk or there's no gin in there, is there?
Nope. I mean, I'd charge extra if there was, to be honest. 'Cause, I mean, that's not cheap.
There's definitely an unsteadiness with this person. So I do know that this person would have it was been quite profound at the end of their life, that there was this tendency to have falls. It's a lady that's coming in. I can relate to this situation actually in my own life with somebody that's very precious to me, that suffers the same fate. So this person would have had, towards the end of their life, a number of falls. I do feel that those falls weren't the cause of death passing, but I do feel that those falls compounded their life to such an extent that they were a major effect on their general well-being, and also on their, it was quite life-changing. Can anybody accept this incident? The lady who would have been quite unsteady, tended to be, what can we say, counting on the family at times to come and help her and pick her up off the floor, pop her in bed, perhaps get a doctor in or somebody to help her. I'm over here. Yeah. Can anybody take this information with a lady who could be your mum? Would I be right that the falls that she had didn't take her to the other side, but it curtailed the life that she would have lived and enjoyed to such an extent that the general weakening of being sort of sedentary basically weakened everything, all of her breathing and so forth. And with her breathing, I also feel very laboured towards the end of her life with the breathing, almost. Can you accept that as well?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so I think I will be with you. And she connects with me again. Yeah. Oh, it's dreadful being a sentient medium, it really is at times. But that wobbliness is all gone now, so we've got that pushed out of the way. But with her as well, there's very much this loving mother-like figure. Would you accept with that as well? And somebody you could always count on. She was always profoundly loyal. Can you accept that with her as well? And the blessing of connecting with her as well, as she comes through, is that is to let you know that she is so well now. All those things that were of terrible anxiety to you, as you saw her basically fall apart before your eyes, literally, is that it's all gone. She's now basically fit, well and active. But and she's doing what gave her a great deal of joy in this life. She's looking after young ones on that side. Would you accept that? And would I be right, incidentally, that on the physical side in this realm, there was somebody within the family that would have lost a child, a baby, before it ever reached birth age? Would you accept that? Two. Because she's over there caring, you see. And she'd like you to know that they're growing and they're developing and they're becoming wonderful, useful and viable souls on the spirit side. Isn't it marvellous, isn't it, that life and that expansion of knowledge and is so profound on the other side, just as it is here with many of us. And she had this magic with kids. Can you accept that? I mean, it was magic. Kids never ever seemed to be troublesome, and she just had this kind of, do you know, I occasionally listen to something called alpha music to kind of settle me down before I do a mediumship demonstration or anything, or I just want a bit of peace and quiet. I switch on some alpha music, and it's been widely found that if it's played to children who are kind of a little bit stroppy, a bit overactive. My wife is a carer, she can tell you all about that. This makes them much more settled and quiet, right? This lady could do that without needing any such aid. Can you accept that? Just by being in her presence was also peaceful. She had this wonderful energy about her that was truly transformational. Can you accept that with her? And no one else you know has that same ability. And unfortunately, it's going to hop a generation or two before it comes out again. That gift is there, it's in the family. It's like the gift of a medium doesn't always come down from the one to the next. It often hops over. And goodness knows where I got mine from. I said to my dad years ago, is there any gypsies in the family? No, mate, no, mate. My cousin did a search. It was. So all your wheels have gone off your cars, by the way. So if you go out, they're on bricks. Kind of the name Boswell would not be related to gypsies, can you really? I mean, there's a gypsy Boswell in nearly every fair. My wife hates it, you don't mention it, but there you go. It's something you have to live with. But she would open her purse with just a few pennies in there, and she would give it to people, wouldn't she? She'd give it to someone who she felt was less fortunate. Can you accept that? And she never would brag about anything good that she ever did, would she? There's never any ego about anything like that. She never had a lot. She never had a lot, but she was generous with what she had. Would you accept that? And I talked earlier about someone leaving an awful lot of stuff and clutter. I'm reminded of encyclopedias with this woman. Why am I reminded of encyclopedias?
She did have a lot of books, but I wouldn't say encyclopedias.
No, but there was something that she would look up when she needed some. We all just get the iPad out now, or we don't even do that. We do Ask Alexa, Ask Alexa. We're going to get Alexa in next week to do the mediumship.
Don't tempt it, it'll do it.
Yeah, and but she had this spark of wonderment. Can you accept that?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. We talked about robins earlier. We talked about robins. This lady loved birds. She loved caring for the wildlife that came into her home and into her garden. And I feel that she could actually lure a bird in the door with because they were so tame. Would you accept that as well? And January the 12th is a date I must give you, so I don't know if you can apportion that to anything. You can, yeah. Sarah is a name I must give you as well. I don't know if you can apportion that, but somewhere in the thread of this lady's life there will be a Sarah that you can, or a Sarah that you should be able to call to mind straight away. And did she live close to water, by the way? Did she live quite close to? It might be nothing major, not like but like a stream or a brook or something. You see. Because I feel that she used to like to sit near there, or to be near it, and just hear the sound. Can you accept that? Yeah. And she was somebody, none of us these days ground ourselves. And most people, what are you talking about? He's off on one. But people years ago used to walk around barefoot, used to know that connection to the soil was vital. Because it not only grounded you to the vibration of the earth, but it also helped with your health, it helped with your vitality. And she understood that. Do you realise that? And she just loved being in nature. It was profound for her. And she used to love, as a child, I like the term kid, the nature table at school, where you brought things in and popped them in a vase or some tadpoles in a bowl. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I wouldn't know that.
She would have loved all that, you see. She's making me aware of that, a love of nature and a love of all life. She wouldn't have been here, would she? She wouldn't have come into here, but she would have always been inquisitive of what went on here. Would you accept that? Yeah. But she would have been, I feel, in one of the churches on occasion and felt very comfortable in the energy and the feeling of being home in a church. Would you accept that? Yeah. Once again, I'll so I can get some more connections in, if I may.
I don't know if we're going to have time.
Oh,
It's
no, we're getting to
it's
short
it's
time.
10:15. I'm
Yeah.
afraid.
Oh, it's not long for the pub shut.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, gave away.
Oh, all right, going to the pub. We're off. Let's go.
Do take a love, please. Please do take a love. It's lovely to have connections like this. I've been truly spoilt tonight. I really have. And so do take a love. She wants to give you an enormous hug. Wants to give you the most wonderful deep red rose. And so I know that roses are special to you. And but you like an old-fashioned rose with a smell, with a fragrance to it, as she did.
Yes.
None of these things that you buy in the supermarket that are just kind of devoid because they're hybridised. And she wants you to take that with love, and she wants to give you a kiss and a hug. And do you have a question, by the way?
Is she happy?
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, I've never met anyone unhappy over the other side, except a dog that we lost not too long ago, and I went and saw a medium, and we was told that dog was coming back, and quicker than we won't go into it because you'll all think I'm a crackpot. But we've now got 2 puppies at home, one of whom is the reincarnation of his predecessor, in such an exact manner, not only of looks, does all the same things that his predecessor did, sits in the same old places, does the same old thing. And as I say, you'll all think I'm a crackpot, but equally, it came from the mouths of 4 mediums that dog was coming back. So there we go, without my ever telling them. Anyway, thanks for listening to me tonight. It's been a blessing.
Thank you so much. I'm going to make you do closing prayer now, I'm afraid.
Sorry?
Would you better do closing prayer?
Yeah, of course I can.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Once again, if we just close our eyes and bow our heads and make contact with God's light and love within the room. Heavenly Father, Great Spirit, from this sanctuary this evening, we know that much energy, positive healing energy, has been produced. And much of that energy will, of course, go to waste unless we send it to those places around the world where it is most needed, where it can bring most help. I also ask that everybody here this evening is surrounded by a cloak of protection, so that they have not only a safe journey home, but they have a safe journey to come back here in the future to blend with this wondrous energy once more. Dear Lord, we ask at this time that all those people in charge of humanity at this time, the people who run governments, etc., are able to get together in the spirit of kindredship, so that we may last in our lives see a world of peace and harmony. Thank you, dear Lord. Amen.
Thank you. Just going to remind everybody that we are not here next week, or what would be the next week, because that's Easter, that's Good Friday, so we're not here for that. So just one next month. Don't ask me who it is, I've forgotten. I'm not going to be able to tell you, I'm sorry.
It's Alexa, isn't it?
It's her. Yeah. Thing is, if you use that, you used to get Mystic Makes predictions, and poor thing, you don't anymore, do you? So, right, let's see, who do we have? I've got 432. Who's my 432? There we go. I don't have a bag today, I'm afraid, so you're just going to have to shepherd somewhere. That sounded bad, sorry. There you go, that's lovely. Right, I am going to put the kettle on. Won't be a minute. Yeah.
Thank you so He's quite right about having to Sorry? He's quite right about having to him.
There's not many people go like that.
He's keeping him She was there enough, yeah. I was there with him. No, I know. No way. No, I know.
I heard today
It's like my husband. It's the ones that are heaviest, isn't it?
I enjoyed tonight. It was lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it.
Did,
This will be up on YouTube if you want to listen.